Hello and welcome to from the mic stand here on Artistic Echoes. We've just seen a brilliant performance there from Charlie Ormrod. Hello, how's it going?
Fine. Can you ask me an easy question? It's been quite a difficult day today, but yeah.
Okay, great. So for people who haven't heard your music before, don't know anything about you, just want to tell us about yourself.
I play the piano.
Yeah.
So I am basically just a session player. I'll play for anyone who needs a pianist and is willing to part with a little bit of money to do so, which is getting harder to do actually at the moment. With bars closing down and stuff, it's a bit of a situation. But I do teaching. I teach the piano. I teach music theory.
Sure.
And also because I've recently started learning the double bass, right, things are getting even more fun. So I've been trying to learn the double bass and the guitar and the saxophone and various other things for basically because you can arrange for other instruments, because I do arrangements and composition as well.
Yeah.
It's nice to be able to have a little bit of a fluency in other instruments. But it means I can accompany my pupils on the double bass now.
Oh, nice.
Which has been quite interesting. And yeah, so I'm trying to get together some pieces of my own to record an album. And as I mentioned earlier on, I've been trying to learn to sing as well, because I got to the age of 28 before I started to learn to sing, and then it's been 2.5 years since then. And it's kind of getting there.
Right.
I'm almost happy with it, but not quite ready enough for tonight. And so eventually there will be an album of stuff. Before then there'll be other recordings of just that kind of thing.
So in terms of these recordings, are they self-produced, or do you send them to someone to edit, or how does it all come together?
I can record everything in here because it's a digital piano. Obviously, the sound can just go straight in. I've got a lovely sound recording box thing. I can do it all. And then I'll probably give it to somebody who knows what they're doing to make it sound good after that. And then I'll be recording some demos in here and getting some actual live musicians to play drum parts and other stuff. Because a lot of the music that I really enjoy is like Latin American sort of vibes. And I know a couple of excellent drummers who really can provide that kind of sound, which you can only get from.
And when you were originally writing these songs, how do you go about that? Because you were saying you write things that you can't play or something like that.
Yes. Well, but I mean, what's the point in writing a new piece of music if you can actually play, if it doesn't challenge you in some way? So, a lot of it is just, it's technique stuff that I would like to be able to do that I can't do at the time. Or it's in a key that's slightly unfamiliar. Like, for example, in jazz, you don't really play in E major. Right. Because saxophones are in E flat or B flat, trumpets are in B flat. They're all the flat side of things. So anything with lots of sharps in it, like E, you don't tend to see very much because it's an awkward key. But if I compose something that's in the key of E, I get to learn all those extra bits that would otherwise be holding my knowledge. And same like writing lyrics and stuff. I've got an idea of what the lyrics need to be, but I'm not a lyricist, so I work with.
And when you do a show, there's generally a theme running through it. Is there going to be a theme running through the album, or?
Oh, well, only insofar as there is a theme that runs through my music anyway. Because why do you write a song? Why do you write your poetry, for example?
Many reasons. I guess I could just get kind of an idea and express it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So if you have several ideas which are expressed in different ways through different poems, but they're all sort of connected, they have an underlying line. And basically it's the same with the music, only you've got to get the music to make sense. One piece has to flow into another reasonably well.
Yeah, of course.
I think, which is, it's just a different type of a challenge, isn't it?
And you said you're working on a show, I think I came to a show a few years ago, and it was more like half lecture, half show. Is that the kind of thing you're working on, or is it going to be more music-based? How's the new one going to work?
Well, so when I asked for criticism at that last show, that was 4 kilohertz as a chili, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
The one in Buxton. Yeah. And that was... along the idea, it was music theory based, basically, wasn't it? But in a way that so anything I find amusing and entertaining, I will work into a show that's again same kind of theme, kind of topic. What's the question again?
Is your show going to be more music based, or
Yes.
is it going to be a mixture
It is.
with like you discussing theories and stuff as well?
So what people told me was that they wanted to hear more actual music in there.
Right.
Because when I'm demonstrating an idea, it tends to be maybe 90 seconds of music, or it's not a fully formed piece necessarily, or there are some complete pieces of music in there, but otherwise it's just like, oh, by the way, this is how this works, sort of thing. But they'd like to hear that expanded into a whole idea, which is what I was kind of doing with my Patreon stuff as well. So I'm expanding the whole Patreon thing to cover. So all of that is basically funding my next show in its entirety. So I know that, like, financially everything's covered, and I can just do the music.
Sure.
So I've got nothing else to worry about, and this is just letting the music speak for itself, because that's what people.
And I think we were discussing about what the theme was earlier. Something about not taking life seriously. Or do you want to tell us a bit about that?
Yeah. Right. This is how much time have you got?
A couple of minutes.
So I realised this is relevant in April, maybe March, that I have ADHD.
Yeah, sure.
And I've told some of my friends about it, and they're like, yeah, obviously. I was the only person who didn't know.
Yeah.
But it was such a revelation. Like, everything is the right way up now. I understand the world, and I understand myself, and I understand how I relate to the world. And basically, like, everything I've ever had to do has been either academic-wise or career-wise or whatever, has always been very serious.
Yeah, okay.
And in pursuit of trying to do things seriously, you miss the point.
Yeah.
So, like, money, for example, is just... It's a token thing, isn't it? It represents value. So if you were to sell me some bananas, and I didn't have any services that you wanted from me in return, then you give me a small piece of metal that says, "Oh, this is the equivalent of." It's tokenism.
Yeah.
And when you start to take that seriously, you treat this token of value, of gratitude, essentially, as the real thing. That's when things start to unravel.
Right.
And that's why we're in this mess. And if you extrapolate that much, much further out and say that actually the whole of life is pretty silly when you think about it. And it's even funnier when you consider that so many people take it really, really seriously.
Yeah.
Like, they take mortgages seriously. It's just numbers. I mean, this is from someone who obviously doesn't have a mortgage, but you're looking at you're not looking at the reality of stuff. If you did look at the reality of your stuff, you'd go, what the hell is all this about?
Sure, yeah, I kind of get what you mean. So I kind of play a bit about with some of those ideas with some of my poems
exactly,
as well.
Which is why I like your poetry in particular, and the ones that do play with that idea. And people, I think, just need to sort of forget that, especially talking about politics and stuff. If people were, I think you can be silly and you can be sincere at the same time. Sincerity isn't the same as seriousness, if you see what I mean.
And I suppose it's got that playful look on it, like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy does, and Terry Pratchett does.
Terry Pratchett.
Lots of popular satirists do. So you're trying to look at that from a musical standpoint, then, I guess.
Yeah. And my lyrics, which obviously the songs are about, which I will kind of reference as well.
Yeah.
In the absence of being able to sing them yet. We'll kind of.
And so, do you have any other ideas for the show? Do you know where it's going to be? Is there going to be a bit of a stage set up? Do you have any of that planned yet?
Well, you see, ideally, yes. It depends how far this budget will stretch.
Yeah.
And how much time we can invest in it. But I do want to have a stage set up. Because I did design one, actually. I made it out of paper.
Right.
And it's really drawing. It had do you know Vasily Kandinsky?
I have no idea.
The artist. Okay, so it's all kind of 1930s, 40s.
Yeah.
Geometric shapes, but all in a kind of an abstract look, and lots of different colours, mainly primary colours, but also kind of very, very vibrant shapes. Because that is because I experience music kind of visually as well sometimes, and I think when I'm writing, when I'm doing an improvisation,
Yeah.
or writing an intricate melody line, it helps if I look at it from a visual art
Right, sure.
kind of perspective, with more defined black lines. Because when you start to make, this is what I teach as well in improvisation, you've got to have an idea of what the melody is
Right.
when you're playing it. If you don't know what it's going to sound like, microseconds before you play it, it's going to come out as a bit of a mush.
Okay.
Which it still sometimes does for me, you know. When things are happening quite quickly, and it's just like, oh, what's the next chord? It's something like that, and you just kind of follow that. And but it's also about where you lead it, and if your line, however wobbly it is, has a particular direction, then that's when you know how it's going to.
So the show is going to be, is it December that you're looking at?
Yeah, I think so. I want it to be late November or early December, ideally.
And with the recordings, are those hopefully to tie in with the show, or is that next year?
How long is it?
You're not quite sure at the moment.
I'm not sure at the moment, no.
Yeah.
But I mean, in preparation for the show, I want to be able to play everything properly. So the intention is to record all the stuff properly, so I know I can play it and then go and do the show.
And I suppose one last thing you do quite a bit of is your Patreon. Just want to quickly tell people what you do with that and if they want to subscribe to it. And
yes, so I'm going to kind of boot it up again soon. And it's where I put all my creative content. So I've had a little bit of a hiatus for the moment whilst I'm getting all the stuff together for this next show and everything else that's been going on, because this year's been such a mess already. So I can have lots of stuff like improvisational ideas or writing a song from scratch. Or the more kind of, the visual art representation of music as well. So if you take a particular shape, like, what does that look like musically? And it's all very silly, obviously.
Right.
But, in the same kind of.
And you just go on Patreon and type in Charlie Ormrod and you're there. Yep.
Yeah.
And I guess your other socials are similar.
Yes.
But you don't
okay, right. So this is the other thing. Okay.
Yeah.
So because this year has been really difficult for my brain.
Right.
And it just seems to melt quite often. I tried to make some cheese on toast early today, and it went really badly. And my brain melted much faster than the cheese did. Right. And I actually had to go and lie down because I just couldn't process what was going on. And this happens quite regularly, and it means that booking stuff and doing the admin side of stuff and anything that's logical or whatever is incredibly hard for me to do. And it takes me a long time. I'm just looking for anybody in the world who can help me out with doing that. And that's not an offer, that's a plea. Please will somebody come and help me do that sort of thing. Mainly for this next show as a starting point,
right.
To just sort of pull it together. And that means that obviously the Patreon content, I'll be able to get that more regular and concentrate on the actual music stuff.
Brilliant. Well, thanks for chatting about your show and coming on the show, playing a bit of music. And we'll see you in December.